Students up and down the country opening their A-level results right now, either at home, online, or they're down at the school. And it looks like a record number of pupils are going to get their first choice of university.
Which is good news,
Yep.
but the gap in top grades is likely to remain. That's something the government promised to address last year. We're now joined by the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Obviously, we hope that there's a lot of celebrations for students up and down the country who've got the grades that they need, but there are still these concerns, aren't there, about the persistent inequalities, whether it's between different regions of the country or whether it's between different backgrounds of children, that actually you don't seem able to be able to tackle.
Hello, good morning. Yes, there are still sharp regional inequalities that we are determined to tackle as a government. We'll come back to that, but if you'll just allow me, I do want to say a big congratulations to young people collecting their results this morning. They've worked really hard. They deserve every success. And I do want to pay thanks and tribute to the amazing teachers and staff who've supported them along the way, because I know it's been lots of hard work, and parents too. The inequalities that we see, so some data is published already. So we've seen the university admissions data has come out. So there'll be other data later on this morning. What we see around university admissions is we do see a gap, for example, between students from the North East and students from London going to university. We are determined to tackle that kind of gap, but also the gaps that we see right across the school system, where white working class kids often don't secure what they need in order to move on and have brilliant and successful lives. And that's particularly acute where it comes to, GCSE English and maths, where if you're from a white working class background, fewer than 20% of kids get a strong pass at English or maths, and that's got to change, and we will turn it around.
How are you going to change it?
So we'll be setting up more later on this year as a government. We'll be setting out a schools white paper. But some of what we've also done, so that's about the school system and what we do in the here and now. We've done a lot already about addressing underperformance in some of our schools with more support to drive up improvement. Too many schools were left adrift where things weren't as they should have been around standards. I would also say that lots of the gaps that we see that open up between young people and their life chances, they open up really early. So they open up actually before the age of 5. It's why I've had so much of a focus as Education Secretary on putting in place more support for parents, both early years education and childcare, but also family support as well. Because all of the evidence is clear. If you back children when they're young, you're setting them up to succeed. So we've got to tackle that early on too.
The good news this morning, as you've alluded to in your opening remarks there, is that finally we appear to be back to pre-COVID examination standards in terms of the results. We seem to be back sort of where we were 5-6 years ago, which is great. That's fantastic. But looking back, I mean, lessons can be learned, can't they? I mean, the impact on the education system of the lockdown during COVID was phenomenal, whether it was on infant schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and clearly on results. And we're only just back to where we were. Looking back, if something like COVID were to happen again, God forbid, how would we do things differently in terms of the way a lockdown affected education?
If something like that were to happen again, I think we would need to give a much greater priority to children and young people and to education. Now, I know that there were difficult decisions to make, and I know the last government had to make some difficult decisions in the face of, particularly early on, in the face of what was an unknown illness, and it was hard. So I do think it's important to make that point. But what we saw over time was a failure to really make sure that young people were back in school as quickly as they should have been. We did see the decision taken by the last government to reopen pubs before they reopened schools. We've got an inquiry that's going on at the moment into the pandemic and its handling. I'm sure that will give us some kind of further evidence about what would need to happen differently in the future. But I think prioritising children, prioritising young people, making sure education is central to that, that will be the key point that I would take away from what happened.
Thank you for that. A couple of other things we want to quickly talk to you about. Obviously, the government has gone after private school parents, as it were, by upping the VAT fees. It's no surprise to learn this morning that the parents have struck back by paying the fees in advance. Analysis of account statements of Companies House and the Charity Commission shows that the most expensive private schools received hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds in fees up front last year as parents scrambled to avoid the 20% tax rate. So they've kind of got round you, haven't they?
Well, there are some parents that have chosen to do that and some schools that have set up such schemes. What I'd just say, however, is that the vast majority of children in our country go to state schools. The vast majority of the people watching this programme this morning will be sending their children to state schools. I make no apology for saying that that's my priority as Education Secretary. We've just talked about the regional inequalities, the differences that we see opening up between children from less well-off backgrounds and better-off backgrounds. My focus is on them, on their life chances and on delivering in the state sector. And we were clear for many, many years that we were intending to increase VAT on private school fees in order to invest in state education, which is precisely what we're doing.
Will you reclaim that money that you've lost because of those upfront payment schemes?
Well, there are different schemes that have been set up, so there'll be different rules around that. These, of course, are matters for tax authorities, not for me. OK, all right, we'll wait to see in that case. But it does mean that potentially the scheme isn't going to raise as much money as you thought. And talking of black holes and the economy, we've got to mention... Yep. Sorry, continue. Sorry, forgive me. The analysis that was done about the impact in terms of what would be raised did take account of the potential for that happening. So we're confident that we are going to raise the money that we set out and we'll be investing it. We're already investing it in state education. OK, as well as other things as well. And just to turn, though, to the growth figures that were out today, because obviously, you know, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has pinned her hopes, hasn't she, on good growth. It was her #1 aim to kickstart economic growth. We've got the figures in this morning that show that it's heading in the right direction. We've got 0.3% growth in the second quarter. There was 0.7% growth in the first quarter. So this is not looking good, is it? Well, it's better than we'd expected. I think it is positive progress, but I'd be the first to say, along with the Chancellor, that there is more to do. We're not complacent about that. This puts us as the strongest performer of the big economies. That is positive. But absolutely there is more to do. And one area where just this week we've been doing more is around skills and construction. Because if we can build more homes, we also, don't just get the economy going, but we provide great opportunities for young people to get well-paid, highly skilled jobs in trades. And this week I announced 10 construction technical excellence colleges, more investment in young people to get on in those key areas like bricklaying, plastering and electricians. And that will also boost the economy. But some of this does take time, but we will get there. And just before we let you go, Kemi Badenoch's been talking about how she reported a fellow pupil, didn't she, for cheating in an exam. Would you do that? Would you report a cheat? Well, I'd hope that the teachers will be spotting that. And luckily, we've got a pretty robust system where when you're doing external examinations, people keep a close eye on you. I didn't see any of that when I was at school, but I think we would all want fairness in the system. Like, if you're turning up for an exam, you should be doing it in the proper way. And, the invigilators, the teachers, the staff should be making sure that the rules are followed. Well, we all know that cheats never prosper. Bridget Phillipson, this is the last question, and I think you can answer it in one word. How many A-levels did you get? I did 4 A-levels when I was at school. And what grades did you get? I got 4 A's. Beat you by 1. You got 3 A's. All right, congratulations all those years ago. Thank you very much. All right, thanks for your time.